Public transportation is such a controversial topic in the United States. There's so many videos, so many things online of people just upset with the transportation system in America. A lot of foreigners, especially in Europe, always make fun of America, bash America for their transportation systems. So today we're going to be reacting to a video called Why American Public Transit is So Bad. Is it really that bad? I don't know. Many people argue that, well, there's just not enough in America, especially in rural America. It's too spaced out. And in the cities where there is public transportation, it's not good enough, or it's too expensive, or so many people drive cars, making America not walkable, or you can't ride your bike. I understand some of it. Now, me personally, growing up in central Pennsylvania, a rural area, never really took advantage of public transportation. There's not much around my area. I would take the public bus with my grandmother to the mall. It was okay. Now I go to the cities a lot. Washington, D.C., Philly, New York City, New Orleans. I took advantage of public transportation, and let me tell you, as I get older, I try to avoid it each time, okay? I do not like public transportation now that I'm older. I always felt unsafe. I always felt uncomfortable. Why that is, I don't know. Maybe because I'm not used to the city. I didn't grow up in a city. But every time I would go on public transportation, it'd be dirty. It would just be not a good vibe. And you see stuff on the news all the time of people just getting randomly shot, stabbed, lit on fire. Yes, people got lit on fire multiple times on the transit. Why? Why is this happening? You know? And is it happening a lot? No. You're not going to just try to live in your fears, but why even take the chance when I could just take an Uber or a Lyft? And people get mad at that, right? But I'm trying to be safe. I want to be comfortable. Sorry if it hurts your feelings. I can get to that place much quicker, more money, sure, but I'm safe. And that's what I care about when I'm visiting cities. I just try not to take the risk with public transportation. It's a good idea, but for me personally, I try to avoid it. Not everybody has that opportunity, and I understand that. Not everybody has the money to take Uber and Lyft all the time. Not everybody has the time. I totally get it. So public transportation is still very important. And sure, I could agree before even watching this video that we could do more with it, particularly for me. If I had to do anything and change it was to make it safe, keep security guards, just make it safe. That's all I want. But people want to see better systems, better roads, more access to trains. I can guarantee that the video is going to be about this. Let's get into it. Make sure to leave your comments down below as you're watching this video. Bash me, I don't even care. Bash the American transportation system, I don't care. I want to hear your opinions. Maybe I change your mind, maybe you change my mind. Let's get into this video.
This is a map of Chicago's train system. If you look at its design,
Never been to Chicago.
It's not hard to figure out what it was built to do. All its different lines intersect here in Chicago's downtown, and then fan outward. This is a system that's really good at moving people between the suburbs or the outer rings of the city and downtown. But that's not really useful to my friend Nina.
I am a Chicago resident and I live in Avondale. I drive to work every day. I drive 25 minutes to Elmwood Park, which is a suburb right on the border of the city.
25-minute drive to work, that's nothing.
Nina actually lives right by a bus stop and a train stop. But if she commuted that way,
I could take the bus down Addison, but the bus route stops at the border of the city, so it would be a pretty long walk, like 45-minute walk.
That's another thing too, like when I would travel when I was younger, I'd be like, all right, well, taking the bus, you know, you look at itineraries, you look at suggestions, you know, take the bus here, hop on the train and go here. Oh, great. You look, and it's like an hour and a half. Like, what? I could walk there quicker, or I could take an Uber and get there in 20 minutes. So I could understand that problem.
Maybe. Or maybe I could take the train down to the loop, and then I would have to get on the Metro, which is the train that goes to the suburb.
Nina said she would commute on public
just hard to me though how you could
sense. But for her,
get a transportation system that hits every street.
Transit systems across the U.S. were built to serve a very specific type of commute, from outside the center of the city to inside it.
I've been on Philadelphia subways.
But studies show that today the most common American commute is actually from suburb to suburb, routes that public transit in the U.S. usually doesn't serve.
See, people see stuff like this and
cringe. It's one reason that the overwhelming majority of Americans get to work by driving alone, and there are a few reasons that isn't ideal. First, it means the overwhelming majority of Americans are also required to own a car in order to work, and that's expensive, the second biggest household expense for Americans. And all that driving also means that transportation is the single biggest way Americans emit greenhouse gases. And because most Americans don't rely on public transit, making it better is rarely a top political priority, which makes things even harder for the people who do rely on neglected transit systems. So what would it take to shrink this part of the chart to get more Americans to use public transit? What would that look like? And who has the power to make that happen?
This is an old video. It's like 5 years, but I doubt anything changed in 5 years.
This is Cincinnati in 1955. It's what a lot of American cities used to look like. There were some highways, but most of the city was on a grid, which made it easy to get around either on foot or on public transit, like streetcars. But around the same time, a huge government infrastructure project changed the U.S.
More people in Cincinnati now than there was in 55.
New interstate highways were built from coast to coast, many of them running right through the downtowns of many cities. Today, Cincinnati looks like this. Instead of a grid, there's a tangle of highways. It makes some neighborhoods almost impossible to get to on foot. And if you don't drive, it's hard to get around the city at all. The same thing happened in countless other cities too, like Detroit and Kansas City. And as cities expanded outward along those highways, one kind of American neighborhood flourished. Entirely residential, filled with single-family homes. And because they were spread out instead of dense, they also changed how Americans got around. Living there required you to travel a lot farther for just about anything. By 2020, a study found that the average workday distance traveled for Americans was 7 miles.
Now, if you're a driver, that doesn't sound long at all. In fact, in your head, you might be thinking that only takes 10 minutes.
Adi Tomer co-authored that study.
It's a biking distance that is both strenuous and potentially unsafe. And for pedestrians, it's a nearly impossible distance to traverse in any kind of reasonable time. By seeing these kind of travel distances, we understand the consequences of what we built. Automobile-oriented neighborhoods.
A later approach to neighborhood planning has created places that look more like this. Neighborhoods designed to put you closer to what you need, that center around a transit hub with buildings that contain not just housing, but office space and businesses too. This is called transit-oriented development. And the people who live in these places are less likely than the national average to drive, and more likely to walk, bike, or take transit. But developing new neighborhoods like this is an extremely long-term project.
If we're going to address these issues, we have to accept the world that we live in now and make transit work in that world rather than dream of
I agree, because that's what I was about to say at the end of the video.
Jonathan English is an urban planner
in Toronto. You
gotta
find ways to work
and he
for the
thinks
future
getting
now.
more Americans to use public transit doesn't have to be so hard. In a research project, Jonathan created these maps of American cities and drew lines on them wherever there was a reliable public transit route, which he defined as this.
A bus that comes every 30 minutes till midnight, 7 days a week. The absolute bare minimum of a transit route that you can count on.
These were the results in Denver, Portland, Charlotte, and Washington, D.C. You can see a familiar design in them, service-oriented around a downtown, but that doesn't really connect neighborhood to neighborhood. And this was the result in Toronto.
When you go to a Toronto suburb, it's not very unfamiliar to any American. You see houses with big driveways, 2-car garages, winding suburban streets. The difference is that the bus goes past those single-family homes every 5 minutes, and it runs 24 hours a day.
And that difference changes everything. Even car owners in Toronto ride the bus. And Jonathan says the lesson for American cities is obvious.
That shows that it is possible that if we invest in basic operations and improving basic local service, that the riders will come. Something that we can do in a matter of weeks.
It's going to cost money.
It's mostly
it's going to cost taxpayers money. I'll explain more at the end, obviously. Everybody knows that.
This chart shows how public transit gets funded in the U.S., mostly by local and state governments and by the fares people pay to ride, which makes state and local elections super important for public transit. Right now, the federal government contributes the smallest part.
All these cities, though, are blue. They're Democrat. And they're always the ones who like the champion on public transportation. Yet if public transportation in all these cities are bad, well then,
where transit systems need the most
are Democrats really the good
federal money gets
party to be taking advantage and taking control of public transportation?
New infrastructure projects that often get a lot of media attention.
So you end up with a $1 billion rapid transit project or light rail or bus rapid transit project where the vehicles don't actually run all that frequently.
Joe Biden's campaign has a proposal to invest in public transportation, and the Trump administration has shown interest in increasing infrastructure spending. But where all that money goes is really decided by Congress. And debate over that often splits along partisan lines, with Democrats who often represent more urban districts in favor of more transit funding, and Republicans in favor of more funding for highways and roads.
My Democrat colleagues want to put the big cities first and ignore our rural communities.
In July 2020, the Democratic-controlled House of Representatives passed a $1.5 trillion infrastructure bill that reallocated funds from roads
People in Congress are
to
just
trains
so
and transit.
The first 21st century transportation bill.
But to take effect, it would also have to pass the Senate, which is currently controlled by Republicans, whose leader, Mitch McConnell, called the bill nonsense, absurd, and pure fantasy.
If the Democrats do in fact
I'm not agreeing.
take back the Senate and hold on to the House, irrespective
poor
of what happens
choice
with the
of words.
presidency, we can actually expect to see significantly more interest in investment in public transportation. And interestingly, a different approach to that investment, where it may not just be more capital projects, but different kinds of investment.
I still really value
I
being
think
on
that
a train
looks
line.
good.
And like I've
I
never
think
lived
that's
anywhere that
the
wasn't
best
like
you could work with.
a 15-minute
right
walk from the train, because I think that's so much a part of my experience as a Chicago resident, being able to access it if I need it. But it's pretty poorly designed.
That's why I don't live in the cities.
Live in places
but
that were built
I know,
for
I get it.
cars.
Not everybody can just
If we
move
want
out of
to
the
change
cities.
that in the long
I get
term, we'll have to build communities that look differently. Right now, Americans drive because it's the most convenient option. But that also means that you don't actually need to transform a whole country to get more people to ride public transit. You just need to make it convenient enough that they want to.
Okay. So basically, what that video is saying, American public transportation is bad, but I don't really have much solutions other than focus on public transportation, and that's really it. That's what kind of I got from the video. I don't know. Am I dumb? Probably. You probably think that. I think I'm dumb sometimes too, but reality is, what happens, happens. You know, we got to work with what we have. I think we make the best out of it. And the reality is it's going to cost money. It's going to cost millions of dollars. We're going to need bus drivers. We're going to need mechanics now. We're going to need so much more if we're going to have a bus go down every single route, go down every single street. It's just going to be tough. I don't know. That's how I think about it. I don't think rural areas really need public transportation. They could benefit from it, but, oh, my LED light went out. They could benefit from it, but I just don't think it's the main priority. And America is made up a lot of rural areas. You know, living in a rural area, public transportation would be ideal, having a bus pick me up and drive right to my job, but that's not realistic. And if that was to happen, well, taxpayers are going to pay a price to benefit from public transportation when they already have a car. And another thing is, with cars, unfortunate reality is, with lobbying, that will never happen. Where there will be less cars. We're seeing new cars get pumped out from whole different brands. That will never happen. We're going to see less cars. I think public transportation in America is kind of cooked. I think the only thing you can really do is just fund with what you have, work with what you have, and that's really it. Like I said, I never really had issues other than it's unsafe. Now that I'd like to invest more money in. Security. Making sure people are safe when taking public transportation. When I go to Philly, I want to take the subway from center Philadelphia down to, Citizens Bank Park to watch a Phillies game. 10 minutes, easy, like $2. I like that. But I shouldn't have to feel unsafe every time. I like to see security guards. I like to just see more safety measures take action. That's what I care about with public transportation. I don't know. I'm sure you guys are going to disagree with me. That's fine. Am I ignorant? I guess I am. But I'd like to hear your thoughts down below. Make sure to comment, leave a like, and if you do like my channel, make sure to subscribe. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm out, guys. Peace.